Hello to all my gorgeous gay friends. Happy Pride. My name is Jessie James, and we're back for another episode of the Pop Astrology podcast. And today I'm going to be talking all about Lady Gaga, which is so exciting. But first, I just want to talk about some things. I did not realize that I was going to post the Kardashians episode on June 1st. I feel literally horrible that my first episode of Pride Month was about the Kardashians, but it's fine. It is what it is. And the rest of Pride Month, I will be covering only gay people. And, I like to cover as many gay people as possible in general. So I will also be covering gay people outside of Pride Month. Thank you for bearing with me. Today we have Lady Gaga. She's super gay. 2, I don't really talk about current astrological transits on here because I think there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of astrologers that do it really well. And I just don't really feel a need to reinvent the wheel. But I just want to talk a little bit about this Trump-Elon fight that happened on, when was it, Friday? I think on Thursday, because Mercury and Jupiter are conjunct today exactly, but it's been building up for this week at the last quarter of a degree of Gemini. And Lisa Scheim said on the Astrology podcast, the forecast for June, that this aspect is going to be a lot of TMI. It's going to be a lot of conversation that probably doesn't need to be out in the open, but it's just people are being called to it. And I feel like that's exactly what this Trump-Elon blow up is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the astrology is so literal. But then Mercury is going to move into Cancer later today on June 8th, and then immediately enter a square with Saturn in Aries. And then it'll be just kidding. I was not speaking. I was not saying a single thing. If you heard me talking, that was wrong. So as fun as it is to get our hopes up that it continues to be a blow-up fight between these two weird narcissists, we might have to press pause on that one. I think we'll get our just desserts pretty soon. I also just want to check in. How is everyone doing? I am in a big time of transition, but I know that everyone else is too, with Pluto moving in November, and then Neptune moving in March, and then Saturn moving last month, and then Jupiter is going to move tomorrow, and then Uranus is going to move the first week of July. That's all the outer planets. That's all of them. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like there's just so much going on in your life and so much change, please take a nap. Please rest and please take care of yourself. There is a lot going on. There's so much going on in the world. It's very hard to exist. I mean, Trump's deploying the National Guard to Los Angeles. My mom is texting me, freaking out. I'm like, I don't leave my house. Please don't worry about me. But it's just a really scary time to be a US citizen. It's a really scary time to have empathy for other people. And sometimes the best activism that you can do is just taking care of yourself. It's just showing up in the world as yourself and who you are. It's showing up in the world as a woman and loving yourself and loving being a woman and not letting any men talk down to you. It's showing up in the world as a person of color and being unapologetically yourself and not letting anyone else control the way you express yourself. Being a gay person, being a trans person, being disabled. Whatever your personal identity is, one of the biggest things and the most radical things that you can do is to be yourself and not let anyone dim your shine or tell you what to do. And so if you're able to do that, and if you're able to rest and find compassion for yourself and love yourself, then you are doing an amazing job. And I love you so much. And we're going to get through this. Anyway, with that said, I am really excited for Jupiter to move into Cancer. Anyone out there who's a Sagittarius or a Pisces rising, this is our chart ruler. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It's going to be such a lovely time. It's going to be abundant. It is going to have immigration struggles like we're currently seeing, which is not going to be amazing, but we're going to get through it together. Also, if you have Cancer placement, Sun, Moon, Rising, anything big, this is going to be a really exciting and abundant and lucky and expansive time for you. Things will always get good again. Life moves in cycles. We have to experience the dark to enjoy the light. If you're having a bad time, just know that it's not going to last forever and you're going to get through whatever you're going through because it's sort of the only choice that you have. So keep going. I love you so much. Let's talk about Lady Gaga. All right. So Stefani Joanne Angelina Germanotta was born on March 28th, 1986 at 9:53 a.m. at Lenox Hill Hospital in Manhattan. Her parents are both of Italian descent. She grew up in an Italian Catholic family on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. At age 4, Stefani Germanotta's mom said, "You need to learn how to play piano because you need to become a cultured young woman." Lady Gaga starts piano lessons. She learns how to play music by ear because she really doesn't like to read sheet music. And she, is simply a prodigy. She went to an all-girls Catholic school called Convent of the Sacred Heart starting at age 11. And in her schooling, she has described herself as very studious, very disciplined, very dedicated, but also quite insecure. She says that she was a misfit and that she was always being mocked for being too provocative or being too eccentric. And I also remember there was a celebrity going around on the internet a few years ago being like, Lady Gaga used to go play the piano and sing at lunch in high school, and we all made fun of her. And it's like, yeah, she's a superstar now, so it worked out for her. But like, this is the problem I have with this, like, being too earnest or trying too hard is cringe sort of thing. You're never gonna get anywhere if you're not too earnest and if you don't try hard. You have to be that weird girl playing piano and singing at lunch if you want to be Lady Gaga. That's just how it goes. I also feel like people forget that most celebrities were also theater kids. And this is also why people think that so many celebrities are actually straight when they're not. They were all theater kids, darling. They were all what you would consider cringe. They were all what you would consider embarrassing. They were all the people that you bullied. They're all, most of them are gay. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But in this culture, you can't call trying hard cringe because trying hard is the only way that you get to be famous. Well, that and nepotism, and I certainly prefer the people who tried hard to the people who were just born into a rich family. Lady Gaga develops and then starts showing this like immense musical talent. She gets enrolled in a creative arts camp for the summer. She starts getting the lead roles in school musicals like Guys and Dolls. And then she goes and studies method acting for 10 years at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute. In 2003, she receives admission to the Collaborative Arts Project 21, which is a special music school at NYU Tisch, which she then withdraws from in 2005, the second semester of her second year, to focus on her music career. Lady Gaga has one music producer who sexually assaults her, and she has never released their name, so we don't actually know who it is. But then she meets music producer Rob Fusari, who she also dates from May 2006 to January 2007, who is the first person who ever calls her Lady Gaga. So Rob Fusari, her music producer, is trying to text her about the Queen song Radio Gaga, but then his autocorrect corrects radio to lady. So he texts her Lady Gaga, and it sticks. And then they work together, and then on August 19th, 2008, her debut album, The Fame, is released, featuring singles Just Dance and Poker Face. And we have the beginning of an era and of an age, like the cultural significance of The Fame being released, the cultural significance of the song Poker Face entering the world, unbelievable, unfathomable. Where would we be now without it? Like, in a worse place, definitely, and it's really hard to imagine worse than whatever is going on. Poker Face was the world's best-selling single of 2009, even though it came out in 2008, and sold 9.8 million copies and spent a record 83 weeks on Billboard's digital songs chart. Then from March to September 2009, she headlines her first world tour, The Fame Ball. And then on November 18th, 2009, she re-releases The Fame as The Fame Monster, which has 8 additional songs, including Bad Romance, Telephone featuring Beyonce and Alejandro. This is when Lady Gaga starts to get in hot water with conservative America because the music video for Alejandro, they're like, this is sacrilege, this is not okay, what are they allowing in our schools, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's pop music, calm down. Pop music is allowed to be controversial and subversive and make commentary on society. That's literally art. That's the whole point. After The Fame Monster, she blows up even more. She spends a record 150 weeks on the UK singles chart, and she becomes the most downloaded female act within 1 year with 11.1 million downloads, which gets her in the Guinness Book of World Records. And then in December 2009, Lady Gaga comes out publicly as bisexual in an interview with Barbara Walters. Slay. January 31st, 2010 is the Grammys, and Lady Gaga takes home her first 2 Grammys, one for Best Dance/Electronica Album for The Fame, and one for Best Dance Recording for Poker Face. In April 2010, the Bad Romance music video becomes the most watched video on YouTube of all time. And by October 2010, she becomes the first person on YouTube to amass more than 1 billion views. Her run from 2009, 2010, and 2011 is like unmatched and legendary. Simply, period. On May 23rd, 2011, Lady Gaga releases the album Born This Way, which has singles Born This Way, The Edge of Glory, Judas, You and I, Marry the Night, and Bloody Mary, and is commonly regarded as, one of the best albums of all time. Rolling Stone put it in its list of the top 500 albums of all time in 2020, but it's a top 10, certainly. In July 2011, Lady Gaga is filming the music video for You and I and meets actor Taylor Kinney, who plays her love interest in the music video, and they start dating. She starts working on her next album, Art Pop. The first single from Art Pop, Applause, drops in August 2013. And on November 6, 2013, Art Pop is released to mixed reviews because people just simply have no taste. And at her Art Pop release party at Berghain, I think it's pronounced Berghain. If it's not Berghain, please correct me because I need to sound cool. And I know a lot about Berlin nightclubs. But anyway, she is having an album release party and she goes on this speech/rant about how she's bisexual because she loves women. And anyone who says that she's bisexual just for marketing is a fucking liar. And this is who I am and who I have always been. Period. Thank you. In February 2015, she got engaged to Taylor Kinney, and then in February 2016, she sang the national anthem at the 50th Super Bowl. She's also introduced by Joe Biden at the Oscars later in February of that year, and she sings Till It Happens to You while being accompanied by 50 survivors of sexual assault on stage. She hid her sexual assault for 7 years and kept it to herself because 1, she was afraid that she was going to be defined by it, and 2, she had survivor's guilt that she, maybe she deserved it. Maybe she did something to deserve it. And so at this time, she's finally coming out and being like, yes, I am a survivor of sexual assault, and making a big stand for it, which is so Lady Gaga. She always stands up for communities that need support, and we're going to talk about her astrology placements and why she is like this, but God, I just love her. Jessie, don't cry in every single podcast episode you record challenge. In July 2016, Lady Gaga breaks off her engagement with Taylor Kinney, citing her career as getting in the way. As it should, Queen. Men are losers. And then on October 21st, 2016, Lady Gaga releases her 4th album, Joanne, which is also her 4th album to go #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making her the first woman to get 4 albums to #1 on the Hot 100 in the 2010s. She just sets records left and right, right and left. She's setting, there's a record, she's going to set it. Love her. In February 2017, Lady Gaga headlined the Super Bowl halftime show, which becomes the most watched Super Bowl halftime show of all time, and she gets nominated for an Emmy for it, for Outstanding Special Class Program. Queen. In February 2018, she opens up about her struggles with fibromyalgia and cancels the last 10 shows of the Joanne World Tour because of it. On October 5th, 2018, her and Bradley Cooper's version of A Star Is Born is released. Everyone goes absolutely feral for the songs Shallow and I'll Never Love This Way Again. Me, I'm everyone. It's fine. And then later in the month of October 2018, Lady Gaga gets engaged to talent agent Christian Carino, who she had met the year before. But that is short-lived because 5 months later in February 2019, they call off their engagement and Lady Gaga signs on for a Vegas residency. On May 29th, 2020, Lady Gaga releases her next album, Chromatica, which has the lead single Rain on Me featuring Ariana Grande. On January 20th, 2021, Lady Gaga performed the national anthem at Joe Biden's inauguration. And then in November 2021, House of Gucci, Lady Gaga's next movie, comes out. And she's a method actor. She studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute. And so she spends 18 months for this movie method acting her role, and 9 of them speaking with an Italian accent. And apparently this causes very severe mental health problems for her. And towards the end of filming House of Gucci, she needed to be accompanied by a psychiatric nurse. Maybe method acting works. but maybe not good for everyone. But her astrology is very method acting. We'll talk about it. And then most recently, in April 2024, she got engaged to her current fiance, venture capitalist Michael Polanski. I don't know when she got into this whole, like, I'm with a venture capitalist and I'm shelling for pharma companies thing. I don't like it, but I believe in her. I believe that she has a plan. And then, of course, in March of this year, 2025, she released her album Mayhem, which is just simply phenomenal. And then in April of this year, she headlined at Coachella and gave the most magical performance in the whole entire world that I was there for, which was so crazy. It's been 100 degrees all day. I'm so like clammy from the sweat that's evaporating off my skin now that it's 11 p.m. and I'm coming down from acid and I'm just like open mouthed, like, what is literally happening right now? I cried at least 5 times and it was perfect. She was so close to me. When she walks down like the platform in the middle to go to the chessboard to do poker face, she was right there. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I want to look at the screen because I want to see it was like, facing down on the chessboard. That was a very important thing to watch. But she was also right there and she's so little. She's only 5'2". It was so crazy. Guys, it was so crazy. And then like a month later, she performs on the beach in Brazil. She does a free concert and it sets a record of 2.5 million attendees. That's such a big number. How is there so many people? Like, we could change the world. And by we, I mean Lady Gaga, but like also all of the little monsters. Like, we could change the world. 2.5 million in one place. Crazy. Anyway, that's just a quick run through of Lady Gaga's history, the history of her career from 2009 until now, so that I can use those things as examples when I talk about her birth chart. Sometimes I see a birth chart and I'm not immediately struck by anything. I'm sort of like, okay, yeah, this looks like it could be the chart of a famous person. And then I dig into it and I'm like, oh, every single thing about her fame is written cosmically into her birth chart. This is such like could only be the birth chart of Lady Gaga, and I'm obsessed with it, and I'm really excited to show you. I was doing so much research yesterday and I was like giggling like a crazy person and being like, I love astrology, which is basically how I spend every day, but it was extra impactful because it was Lady Gaga and I was listening to my Lady Gaga pop playlist, which is just The Fame Monster, Born This Way, Art Pop, and Mayhem, my 4 favorite Lady Gaga albums. It was a spiritual experience. I hope that everyone here loves Lady Gaga as much as I do because it's just so much fun. But anyway, as I mentioned, Lady Gaga was born on March 28th, 1986 at 9:53 a.m. She is an Aries Sun, a Scorpio Moon, and a Gemini Rising. Being a Gemini Rising, her chart ruler is Mercury, and her Mercury is placed in Pisces in the 10th house. And having your chart ruler placed in the 10th house means that your career and or your fame and or your reputation are just simply paramount to this lifetime for you. So basically, she was destined to be famous. / she would never have been happy or fulfilled if she didn't receive fame and recognition in some way. The sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. It's where it does its best. It's where it's on the throne. So she has an exalted sun. And as a Gemini rising, Aries is her 11th house. And having Aries and Mars in charge of the 11th house makes Gemini risings independent, confident, and people who always seem to do amazingly on their own. But these are people who one of their greatest strengths is that they absolutely love their friends. They have such an important focus on their friendships, and they're always there for their friends. They're super supportive. They're always there to lend an ear, but like in an Aries way, where they also can really energize their friends and like make them feel bold and fiery and brave and like they can do anything. These people have an income that they want and they will do what it takes to get to that income. They have a very strong need to be financially independent and to achieve things on their own. And these are people who, like, if they're not making enough money at their first job, will take a second job. They have like boundless energy for getting what they want, because they're just, that's Aries. It's the baby of the zodiac. It has so much energy. It's ready to just get up and go and do things. And importantly, they will fight to achieve what they want to achieve and to make their dreams come true. Now, having her sun in the 11th house of Aries means that Lady Gaga is a pioneer. Aries are people who are bold, people who challenge status quo. And having this in the 11th house of groups and community, this boldness shows up in groups. She is someone who can energize a group and help them to achieve their collective goals. In this way, people who have 11th house sun in Aries are people who create change for everyone. They have a strong need to lead and to inspire, and they align their personal goals with the goals of the groups that they're around. Lady Gaga has been an outspoken voice for the queer community since she came out in 2009, basically. And most recently at the Grammys this year, she gave a speech about protecting trans people while accepting her award for like best collaboration with Bruno Mars on Die With a Smile. And it's such a divisive and scary time and a dangerous time for gay and for trans people. But she just always stands up for what she believes in. And we love her so much for that. These are people who shine in leadership positions and attract friends who share their interest in their special causes. I believe that Lady Gaga is involved in some sort of like mass coming out that's going to happen in the entertainment industry, the music industry, Hollywood, the NFL, maybe later this year, maybe next year. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I feel like her Coachella performance obviously had a lot of references to the Eras tour and to Taylor Swift and to the Black Dog, but also the overall theme was just this idea that there are, you know, two Lady Gagas. There's the version that lives inside her, and there's this blonde Joanne version that she presented to the world, and both of them can't live at the same time. Like, one of them has to die for the real Lady Gaga to exist. And I think Taylor Swift has been showing us that for years now, but it's not just a Lady Gaga Taylor Swift thing. It's like every person who's in Hollywood, queer or not, they're not able to show who they really are to the world. They have to pretend to be this person who society wants them to be. I think there's going to be some sort of reckoning where a lot of people in entertainment come together and come out and say, hey, I'm gay, to show how common it is. If there's one thing I want to see die in my lifetime, there's a lot of things. There's people, there's things, there's very much. But compulsory heterosexuality is one of the top ones, because thinking that you're straight and actually being gay just because like straight is considered default and gay is considered other, for 30 years of my life, if I had been able to avoid having sex with men for 10 years, even though I hated it, but I was told that that was normal, like imagine where I'd be. I would be floating on a cloud above all of this mess. I would be so happy and free and so gay. But alas, compulsory heterosexuality, I was a victim. I was in the trenches. And we're all victims. Gay or not, we are all victims of compulsory heterosexuality, because you could be a woman and you're dating a man who is gay, but doesn't know about it because of compulsory heterosexuality and doesn't want to admit it because of internalized homophobia and societal homophobia and toxic masculinity. And then you're just in a relationship with a man. I mean, there's many, many, many wonderful gay men in this world who would never hurt a woman. And I'm friends with a lot of them, but there are also very many evil, self-hating gay men who won't admit it. And so you can just spend years, speaking from personal experience, getting abused by a man who refuses to admit that he is gay, but hates you and hates women and hates himself and is ready to drag you down with him. And vice versa. I'm sure this happens with straight men who date women who think that they're straight but are actually queer, and women tend to take out their anger more on themselves than on others and have, you know, less destructive and violent coping mechanisms than men do. But I'm sure it still is really painful to men who end up with a woman who will never actually love them. All I'm saying is it's wonderful to be gay. It's absolutely amazing. It's the best possible thing that you could be. Happy Pride Month. Be gay, everyone. Be gay. Just try it, honestly. I think that every straight person should have to try being gay for a little while and see how it feels, because you might find out something that you wouldn't ever know otherwise. Anyway, that was a little bit of a detour, but let's get back to Lady Gaga. Interestingly, other celebrities who are Gemini risings with Aries Sun, so have the same 11th house Aries Sun placement, are Kristen Stewart, who's also an advocate for the queer community and also working with Taylor Swift. I don't know. She had mine tattooed on her upper thigh. I'm just saying. And Mandy Moore, who is a huge advocate for girls who love to interact with fans on their laptop.
I need my laptop on the road. I'm so addicted to getting on and emailing my friends and checking out fan sites and my website and just anything spontaneous.
Lady Gaga's sun makes a square to her 8th house Neptune in Capricorn. People who have aspects between the sun and Neptune are people who yearn to live some sort of like ideal life, people who yearn to be someone special, people who yearn to touch the divine at some point in their lifetime. And this to me feels very spot on. Neptune loves to heighten whatever it touches through any aspect. But in touching and heightening the sun, it's also sort of pulling you away from reality. And the sun is like your life compass, like where you are going in life. It's your truest self with a capital S. So when Neptune touches the sun, it makes someone want to glamorize and like distance themselves a little bit from the reality of who they are, which is fun, but it can also lead to a sense of like dissatisfaction in life itself, because when you're constantly wanting to be extraordinary, all the ordinary parts of yourself are going to feel a little bit disappointing to you. And we are all human. Like we all have ordinary human parts of ourselves, and having a feeling overall, I have this aspect too. So I'm like, I always have a feeling overall that I am like a mystical being who came from another planet and was placed here, but have like supernatural powers. And it sort of can suck sometimes when you're reminded like, oh, I am actually just a human, just like everyone else. Having this and having this like detachment from reality can lead to you not being able to develop like a very strong, firm ego and sense of self as a child. And this is really necessary for self-development throughout your lifetime. So a lot of like Sun Neptune people spend their whole entire lives searching for the divine and searching for something spiritual and guiding. But in that, they're actually probably searching for themselves. They never really got to know themselves truly. And so they've spent their whole life looking for that, looking for their true selves. Lady Gaga's sun also makes a trine to her Saturn in Sagittarius in the 7th house. Saturn always is what you can't have, but you want. And people who have Saturn sun contacts often felt as children, because of like abandonment or abuse by their parents, like they weren't able to be important. Like they felt as a child like they were unimportant, like they were insignificant, like no one cared about or listened to them. And they spend their whole lives striving to be like, no, actually I am important. No, actually I am significant. And I think that this was really inspirational to Lady Gaga. And I mean, she got there. She is important and she is significant. But as I was thinking about this aspect, I was just thinking about Lady Gaga's song Hair and how it talks about her parents not really accepting her for who she was and wanting her to be something different. So I pulled the lyrics and I'll share them with you now. She says, whenever I'm dressed cool, my parents put up a fight. And if I'm a hotshot, my mom will cut my hair at night. And in the morning, I'm short of my identity. I scream, Mom and Dad, why can't I be who I want to be? I just want to be myself, and I want you to love me for who I am. I've had enough. This is my prayer, that I'll die living just as free as my hair. And this makes me like, I'm really glad that she has this anthem about like, you know, then she goes on to say like, maybe I'll get some raccoon highlights or dye my hair bright red. And that she was able to be free with her hair and herself and lean into her self-expression and become such a leader in, you know, dressing how you want and doing what you want. But it is sad to think that early in life, she wasn't allowed to do this and she was discouraged from being her true and authentic self, which is such a universal experience. But I think because of this trine between Saturn and her sun, it was really, really monumentally formative for who she is and who she has become. This is also an aspect that can give you great self-control and discipline. And I mean, yeah, the talent that she has developed by being so studious for so long and really dedicating herself to her craft is absolutely insane. Like the Coachella performance, lying down in that sandbox while she was singing and still maintaining like a lifted posture and breathing from her diaphragm, the stamina to do all of that dancing and running around and still sing her ass off. I mean, it was ridiculous. And that's what you get from having self-control and discipline and being a really freaking hard worker and building on a natural base of talent, but elevating it to the level of global pop superstar. Like, she's crazy. Lady Gaga's next placement is her 6th house Scorpio moon. The moon in Scorpio is the moon in fall. It's where the moon can get distracted from what it's meant to do by just all of the murky emotional depths of Scorpio. But it's interesting because a lot of celebrities have a Scorpio moon. And I saw some number, it was like only 3% of people in the world have a Scorpio moon. It's a very rare placement. But so many celebrities have this placement. Beyonce, Katy Perry, Margot Robbie, Jennifer Lopez, Miley Cyrus, Kylie Jenner, Elizabeth Taylor, Scarlett Johansson, Benny Blanco, like so many people. And I think it's because the moon in Scorpio has a lot of emotions and it has a lot of emotional depth. And their whole journey is about emotional growth. But it's a placement where they don't really feel understood. They have a really hard time putting their emotions into words. And that's sort of like the whole point of art, right? You know, if you have emotions and you struggle putting them into words. I mean, obviously some artists are writers, but you create art. Like Lady Gaga's case, she uses so much like symbolism. She uses so much metaphor. She like lives and breathes metaphor. And so that's a way for her to express her feelings that she wouldn't be able to like sit in a therapist's office and be like, I am sad for this reason and this reason and this reason. Like it's a water sign. It's not intellectual. It's just like water doesn't really have a shape. Water can't be put into a form unless you put it into a container. It's just like a river is incredibly strong and is never the same thing twice. It is constantly moving and constantly flowing. That's what a Scorpio moon is. Like they can't be contained. They have no control over where they're going. The current is just going to take them and they need to find ways to cope with that along the way. And a big way that they can do that is through making art. Scorpio moons are super resilient people. They can show a lot of strength in hard times. They're people who trust and loyalty is like so important to. They're people who crave really deep and meaningful connections. And in the 6th house, where Lady Gaga has her moon and where Maggie Rogers also has her 6th house Scorpio moon, you process these emotions through 6th house things, which is the work that you do every single day. And yeah, I would say that Lady Gaga's daily work, not only writing songs, but also being an actress and creating fashion art and creating her makeup line and every single thing that she does is the way that she processes her emotions. And that's the way that she's able to cope with all of the depth and craziness of emotions that a Scorpio moon has. And it makes her a better artist, honestly. Like, this is why I say having a moon or any planet in fall isn't inherently a bad thing. There is no inherent good and bad in astrology. There's things that are easier and things that are more challenging, but your life is meant to be challenging. No one wants people want an easy life where they just skip through the park and smell the daisies, but you don't grow that way. It's if you never bleed, you're never going to grow. But you don't make art like Lady Gaga by never experiencing adversity in your life. If you have every single planet exalted, if you have an Aries Sun and a Taurus Moon, this is not even possible because Mercury can't be this far from the Sun, but if you have a Virgo Mercury and a Pisces Venus and a Capricorn Mars and a Cancer Jupiter and a Libra Saturn, you have all of your planets in the best place possible in your birth chart. That still doesn't mean you're going to have an easy life. It just means that you will have an easier time maybe with coping mechanisms and challenges will present themselves to you in a way that is a little bit more straightforward and clear. But there's no this placement is going to make sure that you never experience a problem in your life, because that's just not a reality of living. We all experience problems. It's designed that way. Lady Gaga's moon in Scorpio makes a trine to her Jupiter in Pisces in the 10th house. This is an aspect I covered because Kim Kardashian has a similar aspect between these planets. It's someone who is prone to overreacting, over-exaggerating. Jupiter expands everything it touches, and the moon is your moods and emotions and your soul. And so these people just don't really know how to have normal reactions to emotional things. But what is a normal reaction to something emotional? There's nothing in the dictionary that says you have to react to X thing in Y way. They just take things a little bit further than other people do, but I don't think that's a problem unless you make it a problem for other people. But seriously, especially with this moon being in Scorpio, which is an endless undercurrent of emotional waters, and this Jupiter being in Pisces, Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces because Pisces is boundless and Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter can expand all it wants here. There is literally, it's limitless. It can go all the way into the collective unconscious and circle the sun and come back again. Like, she has an unlimited capacity to feel emotions. When I say she was cosmically designed to be an artist, this is just simply the tip of the iceberg, but she was cosmically designed to be an artist. And this usually indicates coming from a home where their mother was overly dramatic. The moon represents the mother, Jupiter, once again, blowing things up. And I won't act like I know that much about Lady Gaga's mom, but if she really did cut off her hair in the middle of the night just because Lady Gaga was like acting out or dyeing it red or something, like that's dramatic. That's really dramatic and traumatic, but dramatic indeed. And this can also be, I have this textbook that describes this as like a greedy contact, but not greedy in like the Jeff Bezos way, like greedy in that sometimes they can never get enough emotional sustenance. Sometimes they can never get enough intimacy. They can never get enough like emotions. They can never get enough growth and transformation, which I don't necessarily think is greedy. I think it goes a little bit along the lines of like the Sun-Neptune contact, where it's just like, why can't I be infinite? Why can't I transcend the earthly realm and get more? You know, I'm not bound to the earth. I can go into space if I want to, but not in like a Katy Perry way. Not literally, not that space, like the collective unconscious sort of space. Lady Gaga is also a Gemini rising, and I'm actually obsessed with Gemini risings, and I think that this is the first podcast episode I've done about one, so I'm very excited to be talking about this. Many, many, many of your favorite celebrities are Gemini risings. Renee Rapp, Lindsay Lohan, Maggie Rogers, Mandy Moore, Kristen Stewart. These are names I've already mentioned. And Kamala Harris is also a Gemini rising, and she's also a Libra sun, so air sign queen. She would have been our first Libra president since Jimmy Carter. And there's still a chance, right? Please tell me there's still a chance. Gemini risings are super charming. They're really curious. They're super intelligent. They have like a very deep and complex and layered mind. There's a lot more to them than what you see on the surface. But they also put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they overanalyze basically everything. Gemini, anywhere in your big three, big six you're going to be an overanalyzer. It's pain. But I honestly, as a Gemini moon, it's nothing but pain. I wouldn't have it any other way. And a lot of their overanalyzing is just because they have such a strong need to understand everything that's going on around them. They're not content to just sit back and let things happen and be like, okay, yes, that is just happening. They're like, no, why? Why is it happening? What's the function that it's happening through? What does it mean? What are the consequences? What did it come from? Are there historical instances where this has happened before? What is the context? Do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Like, I need to understand the context for everything. What came before? What comes after? Is this going to happen again? Is it bad? Is it good? What are the good things? What are the bad things? That's basically being a Gemini rising or a Gemini moon. And I assume a Gemini sun as well. This is why I just can't get enough of Geminis. Gemini risings have minds that are just temples that are full of knowledge. They're full of interesting things to say and to share. These people are the life of the party. They always have something to talk about. People are always looking to them like, hey, what are you going to say to liven up this conversation? We're the backbone of society. And they just have like this really intangible but magnetic charm, which is also great for Lady Gaga being a superstar. She has to have charm and charisma or else people aren't going to want to watch her. But these people also need constant stimulation. They need to travel. They need to meet new people. They need to make new friends. They need to talk. And I mean, we know that Lady Gaga always needs stimulation.
No sleep. Bus, club, another club, plane, next place.
Anyway, moving on to Lady Gaga's chart ruler, her 10th house Mercury in Pisces, which is technically in fall because Mercury is exalted in the opposite sign of Virgo. But once again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Honestly, for an artist, it's a really good thing because Pisces Mercuries think and communicate through dreams. They move away from the rational, grounded Virgo, but into the Piscean realm of the collective unconscious and dreams and symbolism and metaphor, which Lady Gaga is so fluent in. This is a super, super common placement for people who are artists professionally. Not only are they abstract thinkers, but they're also incredibly empathetic and have a lot of compassion. They very easily sense and intuit other people's emotions. But because Pisces is a mutable sign and it's so boundless and otherworldly, these people can communicate in a way that other people have a really hard time understanding, which is not a problem for them. But I'm sure that Lady Gaga has struggled with this and getting her work to connect and land with people. She needs to sometimes scale back like the extent of the symbolism that she wants to use and write it in a way that other people do understand, that this is not just like a wild story. There's also a meaning under this. And having this in her 10th house of fame and reputation and how other people see her indicates that she tells stories that grab other people's attention. Like Mercury in Pisces is someone who just like tells a lot of stories, but having it in the 10th house means that other people want to interact with these stories and blow them up and make her famous. This is someone who seeks to uncover truth through their work. And it's people who find careers that allow them to be artistic and use their boundless creativity and imagination as their career, as the way that they gain fame and recognition, and as their reputation. I'm also so unsurprised that Lady Gaga is a method actor because that's so Pisces. Like Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the end. It's where you can't tell where you end and where someone else begins. And that is very method acting to me. And this is where we get into her Uranus aspects, which I think are so critical to Lady Gaga being Lady Gaga. Uranus is the planet of rebellion and being different from other people and shock and even a little bit of chaos. And so Lady Gaga's Mercury in Pisces makes a square to her Uranus in Sagittarius. Having Mercury touching Uranus gives someone who's thinking and whose work is extremely ahead of the curve, very Lady Gaga. To people who have a more conservative or traditional outlook, these people may seem very extreme. Lady Gaga has shown this through all of the conservative backlash to her music videos and her songs. Like, yeah, conservative people don't like her. They think that she's gone too far. And it's like, no, she's just Lady Gaga. She's just doing her thing. These people use their communication, Mercury, as a form of rebellion, Uranus, and a way to separate themselves from others and show that they're a unique individual. But the key here is that they're not doing this just to rebel. They genuinely hold views that society just isn't ready for, and they would hold those views whether they got to share them or not. They would hold those views whether society thought they were taboo or not. These are just their views. They're not doing it just to be rebellious and just to rage against the machine or whatever. These are their views, and they're just sharing them, and other people are just taken aback by them because they're ahead of their time. They're outside of social norms, but one day they'll be inside of social norms because that's how culture works. And I think that this is very clear with Lady Gaga through looks around everything, but also through her early and open and consistent support of the queer community. Back before gay marriage was legalized nationally, back before gay people finally earned our rights to be ourselves, that are quickly being stripped away. But Lady Gaga has always been there. She's always been at the forefront of gay rights, and she is an absolute star and a queen for that and for a billion other reasons. And Lady Gaga does not just have Mercury touching her Uranus, she also has her Venus in Aries trining her Uranus in Sagittarius. This just gives meat dress to me, like first and foremost. Meat dress is here. All of her like crazy outfits are here. This is taking Venus principles, which is love and beauty and fashion and relationships, and giving them that rebellious, chaotic, independent, unique Uranus flair. So it's dressing like nobody else dresses. It's looking like nobody else looks. It's not trying to look conventionally attractive, but just looking the way that you want to look. And this is also an unconventionality in relationships. These people are often gay. It only makes sense for Lady Gaga to be bisexual because she has Uranus trining her Venus. She has an inherent need for freedom and difference in the way that her relationships look. People with Venus-Uranus aspects often want open relationships. These people exude confidence and they're really popular, but they attract others to them by being different, not by conforming, but by being themselves and seeing who wants to go along with that, who thinks that they're cool. And anyone who doesn't think they're cool and thinks they're weird, they just don't really give a shit about. Lady Gaga's Venus is in Aries in her 11th house, and Venus in Aries is technically in detriment because it's opposite Libra, which Venus rules. But once again, this isn't a bad thing necessarily. Aries Venuses are such bold people. Like, love to them is a thrilling adventure. They love passion. They need passion. They're always seeking out new things in their relationships, whether that's with new people or just finding new ways to keep the spark alive with their current partner. They're super spontaneous and they just approach love and beauty and relationships with a desire to have new experiences. And in the 11th house, these people love to be around other people and create beauty and art together as a community. And Lady Gaga really shows this because in 2008, when Lady Gaga moved to LA, she created her own creative team called House of Gaga, which she modeled after Andy Warhol's The Factory. Just a team of people coming together to create really cool, innovative things. That's so 11th house Venus and Aries. People who have Venus in the 11th house also tend to meet their romantic partners through other people, through community, through friend groups. And Lady Gaga met her current fiance, Michael Polanski, after her mom met him at a party and then introduced her. Her mom apparently called her and was like, I just met your husband. And that's so 11th house Venus. Lady Gaga just has so many placements that indicate that she only would have ever been happy in a creative career. And this is just simply another one of them. It's saying you're going to find a way to make a living. Venus also rules like money, while also being true to yourself and not selling a part of your soul just to make money. This is why I'm extra confused about this like shilling for pharma thing. I don't really know what's going on there. It doesn't really seem to track with her art or her as a person. I'm not quite sure. This is like the one big question mark I have around Lady Gaga. Is she doing this as some part of like bigger plan? Or is this just like a pivot that she's made that she has found a way to integrate into her ethos and her brand vision? I don't know. I'm hoping that we find out one of these days. Moving on to her next placement, Lady Gaga has her Mars at 0 degrees of Capricorn in her 8th house. I feel like I've been doing so many anoretic placements. I feel like I'm tired of hearing myself say the word anoretic after the last like 9 episodes of people who have these like really striking critical placements in their chart. So I was excited to choose Lady Gaga because she doesn't have any 29 degree placements and she only has this one critical degree placement, her Mars at 0 degrees. I want to show that while a lot of celebrities do have critical degree placements in their charts, you can be a very famous person and a very creative person without having these like karmic life lessons coming to bite you. But she does have this one critical degree placement, her Mars at 0 degrees. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It's the place where it does its best work. And this 0 degrees imbues everything it touches with Aries energy. It's like you were born yesterday. There's no jadedness. There's no melancholy. It's a little bit naive, but it's naive in a way that it's like, well, I can accomplish anything, right? As long as I set my mind to it. So we have Mars in the sign where it does its best work with unlimited potential. Like, no wonder she became famous. No wonder she had the drive and the ambition to study so much and develop her talent so much and be so self-controlled and disciplined and get all of her shit done. She was destined for it. The stars, the universe literally said, like, you are going to be able to accomplish anything that you want. You will have the drive to do it. The negative side of having a Capricorn Mars is that this can cause a lot of tension and stress for you. These people tend to work themselves to the bone. They tend to really not know when to stop or when they need to rest. They put their rest as a secondary need below their work and below their talent and below their ambitions and their dreams and their goals. Capricorn is all about ambitions and goals. And I think this has shown up for Lady Gaga through, her struggles with fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a disease that has both genetics and stress and adverse life experiences as causational factors. And I think in Lady Gaga's case, it was a lot of stress. It was not just all of the work that she was doing and all of the stress and self-discipline that she was putting herself under. And Mars rules Lady Gaga's 11th house of Aries, but it also rules her 6th house of Scorpio. And the 6th house has to do with our health and wellness. And so having Mars ruling this house adds a lot of heat. Mars is inflammation, it's heat. It adds a lot of heat and inflammation into into her body, into her health and well-being. So it's always going to be something in her chart and in her body that causes her some inflammation and some stress. And one of the lessons that she has to learn in this life is that it's really important not to put herself under that much stress, to give herself a lot of time to rest and recover, and to give herself a lot of self-compassion when she's not able to do something she might want to be able to do. Although with Lady Gaga, I feel like she's going to find a way to do it. She's just going to need to find ways around like doing it by charging headfirst into it no matter what else happens. Like there are workarounds. There are ways that she can be kind to her body and not put herself under a lot of stress and still do all of the things that she wants to do. Also, very interestingly, Mars is like a masculine principle. So women who have Mars in Capricorn and who are interested in men tend to go for male partners who have Capricorn traits. And I was not able to find a birth date for Michael Polanski on the internet. All I could learn is that he was born in the year 1978. So we may never know if he's a Capricorn or has any Capricorn placements. I may spend the rest of my days wondering, is he a Capricorn? But as a venture capitalist, he does definitely have Capricorn traits. So maybe that's all we need to know at the end of the day. Lady Gaga's Mars is in her 8th house of death and rebirth and transformation and sexuality. And Mars is also sexuality. So these are people who are very, very in touch with their sexuality and their need for intimacy. Mars here has a very strong like intensity and focus. And so these are people who are able to act very easily through their power of intensity and focus and usually draw people's eyes to them just because of the power that they gain from how well they know and believe in what they're doing. These are people who intuitively know what consequences, good and bad, their actions are going to have. And so they're not afraid to act on them because they already know how it's going to end. Like these are people who have such a strong natural inclination to be leaders, but they're very into control and they can become so into control that it becomes an obsession for them. And that's where you need to watch out for things because it can start working against you instead of using this 8th house Mars to work for you and just in general make you a very powerful person. Her Mars is also conjunct her descendant, which is the opposite of the ascendant in Sagittarius. And having Mars on the descendant can make someone pretty aggressive towards others. The descendant is how you relate to other people one-on-one. Mars is aggression. And it can also make you feel like other people are being aggressive towards you and just give you this like natural urge to retaliate. Like the second you feel like someone is being aggressive towards you, you're like, how can I get revenge on them? And it's like, okay, calm down. Maybe they weren't being aggressive towards you. Maybe they've had a bad day. Maybe they ate too much for lunch or they haven't eaten enough. Give it a little space to breathe. We don't need to be on the attack all the time. And these are also people who might have to work really hard to get to a place where they're able to cooperate with other people. And I think that all of Lady Gaga's 11th house influence of like community and friendship, especially having her Sun and Venus there, mitigate this really well because she really is like destined to co-create and collaborate and work really well with other people. But I wouldn't be surprised if you asked Lady Gaga if she's ever had this problem and she's like, oh yeah, literally all the time. However, this is also not a sign-based conjunction. Her descendant is at the end of Sagittarius and her Mars is at the very beginning of Capricorn. So it's a little bit weaker in general. So it might just not be that prevalent in her life. And this also shows you someone who really quickly jumps into a relationship and, moves really fast. I'm not saying love bombing, but just like taking things really quick. They're not a slow burner. And then those relationships flame out as quickly as they began. Obviously, Lady Gaga is on her 3rd engagement. I don't really know the personal history of what happened in her relationships, but she does seem like someone who jumps pretty quickly into a relationship that might not be the right relationship for her. And then the last aspect that I'm going to talk about is Lady Gaga's Jupiter in Pisces making a sextile to her Neptune in Capricorn. I was looking at my notes for this aspect and I was like, I feel like I was literally just talking about this. Who was I talking about? And then I was like, oh, Sierra from Love Island, USA. Congratulations, Sierra. You have a Lady Gaga aspect. Everyone claim your Lady Gaga aspect. I already said that mine is Sun Neptune. Look at your chart, figure out what you have in common with Lady Gaga, and use that to move you forward through this world, knowing that you share a little cosmic astrological piece of the pie with Stefani Joanne Angelina Germanotta, aka Lady Gaga. A Jupiter-Neptune aspect makes someone who is a philanthropist, someone who is a humanitarian, someone who can even have a martyr complex where they feel the need to sacrifice themselves for the good of the whole. And taken to an extreme, this could also be someone who thinks that they are a saint who can literally do no wrong and who is super like spiritually arrogant. This, similar to Sun and Neptune, is someone who has a really strong yearning to experience divine things in their lifetime. I just feel like Lady Gaga's Neptune is so busy in her chart. It's doing so many things. And as I've mentioned, she creates worlds in her songs. It was embarrassing the age I was when I realized that Judas wasn't just like talking about the story of Judas and Jesus, but was actually like telling a real story with societal critique and symbol and metaphor. Like she just really lives in that world. And very similarly to Taylor Swift, honestly, consuming Lady Gaga's art makes me want to learn so much about history and about biblical stories and understand all of the archetypes. And I'm already down a super crazy Carl Jung rabbit hole like my whole life. So I definitely don't need more inspiration to do these things. But if you haven't looked into all of the symbolism in Lady Gaga's songs and you're yearning for a little bit more like depth and emotional transformation and connection with the divine, I definitely recommend trying to figure out all of the metaphors and symbols that she uses and how those apply archetypically and mythologically and how that represents the situation that plays out within your own brain literally all the time. But finally, this is someone who really can see the divine soul of every object. It's someone who can put a seashell up to their ear and hear the entire ocean. It's someone who can see the entire world in a little grain of sand. It's someone who just very intuitively and innately understands how everything is connected and that we are not individual people just living our own lives in a way that doesn't impact others, but that every single thing that someone does sets off a chain reaction that impacts every other person and being and creature. And I think that's what drives a lot of her like humanitarianism and her like, please everyone accept people because we are all connected. Not accepting gay people is like not accepting yourself because we are all humans who drink from the same collective unconscious. Anyway, if that was a train of thought that interested you, you're going to love Lady Gaga's music. Let me tell you that much. That's it for her birth chart. The last thing I want to cover is some historical and some upcoming dates. And I specifically want to talk about the Venus retrograde in Aries cycle, which happens every 8 years and happened this past year. Because even though Lady Gaga was not born during a year when Venus was retrograde in Aries, she has Venus in Aries. And so this ends up being really important to her life. The first time Venus was retrograde in Aries in Lady Gaga's career was 2009. Venus was retrograde in Aries from March 6th through April 17th. And this is when her career is blowing up. In March 2009, like when Venus stations retrograde in Aries, is when she sets out on her first world tour ever, the Fame Ball. So it clearly was a pivotal point in her career. It is what really launched her as a global superstar. And then fast forward 8 years to the next time Venus went retrograde in Aries from March 4th to April 15th, 2017. This was right after Lady Gaga headlined the Super Bowl halftime show that became the most watched Super Bowl halftime show in history and also performed Till It Happens to You at the Oscars, introduced by Joe Biden with a bunch of sexual assault survivors. Like this was her time on the really big stage. These Venus retrogrades in Aries always align with times that her career is really blowing up. And then Venus went retrograde in Aries again this year, 2025, from March 2nd to April 13th. And Lady Gaga released Mayhem on March 7th, 2025, and then performed at Coachella as a headliner, as the greatest headliner in history, on April 11th, 2025. So these always align with times that her career is really blowing up. And I think it's so cool to look at people who have Venus in Aries, to look at people who were born on Venus retrogrades, to look at people who have really strong Aries placements and see how these retrogrades impact their lives. Because Venus going retrograde is usually really good news for women and for queer people. It's a time when we're able to push back against societal norms and really make our voices heard. And I think it's so fascinating to study this Venus retrograde cycle. But then also just some upcoming dates. On April 28th, Lady Gaga's ascendant progressed to 29 degrees of Cancer on her progress chart, which is how your chart evolves as you age. And this is when she got engaged to her fiance, Michael. And on August 7th, 2025, so 2 months from now, her ascendant is going to progress to 0 degrees of Leo, which is just going to mark a whole new chapter in her life of how people view her. Leo obviously is very fiery. It's very like spotlight on me. It's also her third house of communication. So I actually do think we are going to be seeing a lot more of Lady Gaga starting later this year. And then on December 14th of this year, Lady Gaga's moon is going to progress to 29 degrees of Aries. This happens every like 2.5 years. It's not that rare. And then on January 13th, 2026, it's going to progress to 0 degrees of Taurus. So this will be like an emotional ending for her in December and a new emotional beginning for her in January, which is a great time to have a new beginning. So I am interested in these progressions and what they mean for our experience of Lady Gaga. Obviously, we'll never know what they mean in her private life specifically. And then on February 21st of 2026, next year, her Mercury is going to enter Taurus. This is a change that happens like 2 or 3 times in your lifetime, so it is a big deal. And I think it's going to mark a new chapter or a new way that she communicates with people. I'm sort of getting a feeling that this is going to be her time when she starts creating films, when she moves from acting to directing, producing, writing. I'm just getting a feeling intuitively from the universe that we're going to move into more Lady Gaga director era. But I don't know. We'll see if it happens. Anyway, that's Lady Gaga's astrology. I hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun doing this episode. I was sort of putting off the research for a while. It just seemed like, once again, the first time I looked at her chart, I was like, I don't know if there's much I can do with this. And then as I dug into it, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. This is so exciting. This is so exciting. I love you for being here. I have really exciting news. I am going to be formally launching my astrology business towards the end of June. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be doing some specials and some really cool things around my business launch. But in the meantime, if you would like to book an astrology reading with me, you can do so on my website at popstrologypod.com. It means the world to me. When I tell you, every single time I get an email that's like, I want to book a reading with you, or I get a booking in my inbox, I just get so giddy and overjoyed. It's my favorite thing in the whole entire world. And after a decade of a soul-sucking corporate career, I'm so excited to actually be doing something that I love. Like, my whole point with doing readings for people isn't just like because I want to make money. If I really wanted to be making money, I would have stayed in my soul-sucking corporate career, but I don't. I just want to help people. Astrology has been so helpful to me. I started it when I got really sick 3 years ago, and I was just like, there has to be some sort of cosmic reason that I'm experiencing all this pain. There has to be a light at the end of this tunnel. I was like the closest I've ever been to not wanting to be alive anymore. And it really helped me. It helped me through that over the past year as I've been on a healing journey to heal from a lifetime of abuse and complex PTSD. Using astrology has helped me through that healing process so much. I've learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about life and about humans and about, you know, how life works and the life cycle. And I feel like we are kept so separated from that in our capitalistic society. We're kept poor on purpose. They need us to stay at work so that we don't think too much. They're trying to take education away from everyone. They're trying to obscure history. And astrology is just another tool. It's just another avenue that you can use to uncover these secrets about life. And I feel so passionately about sharing them with people and helping people understand their cosmic roadmap that every single one of us has, that is a birth chart, and what that says about you, where you're going to struggle and where you're going to thrive, what kind of people you need to be in relationship with, what you need to be doing in order to be your best self, is all things that you can see on your birth chart. And I see the birth chart sort of like a map. Like, your life is a journey. And if you set off on a journey without a map, like, I'm sure you're going to probably get to your end destination. I mean, you might not, but along the way, you're not going to know where there are obstacles. You're going to take wrong turns. There are going to be pitfalls. There are going to be detours. And you would just have a lot better of a time if you had a map. You'll still encounter obstacles along the way, but you'll know when they're coming up and what shape they're likely to form and what skills you need to develop to get through them. You're going to know if you're going through a hard time that it has an end date and what that end date is and what the purpose is behind that transit. You know, sometimes I go through really difficult transits and I'm like, oh my God, this has been awful. But then I'm like, but I'm never going to go through this again. So I might as well get all of the lessons out of it that I can. I actually don't feel that way about having Pluto in my 11th house from age 13 to 31, but I survived it. It made me who I am. And everything that you go through makes you who you are. And you are so special. Like, you are no one else, and you can't be, because everyone else has a different birth chart than you. You're the only person who has your birth chart. And that's so cool. And I just want to help people. I'm going on a very long rant right now, but I just want to help people love themselves and understand that who they are is so special and such a beautiful force in the world, and really lean into that and feel comfortable expressing yourself authentically and being who you authentically are, no matter how weird or cringe or try hard or whatever other people think of you. Fuck those people. Who cares? You're your number one, baby. And all I want to do is help you see that. And if you can see that you are special and unique, then I will be the happiest girl in the whole world. Anyway, I love you so much. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at popstrologypod, or send me an email to popstrology@proton.me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next weekend. Bye.